University of Dutch. I'm Dirty Dutch, and I'm joined today by my co-host and wrestling historian, if you will, Dr. John Paz. Hi, John. How you doing?
Hello, hello. How you doing, Dutch? How's everything going?
Well, good. We're going to be talking today, and I'm going to kind of get in depth with this a little bit, but let me catch the people up on something I did today. I listened to Jeff Jarrett's podcast. And what's the name of that, John?
My World with Jeff Jarrett. Very good stuff from him and Connie.
My World, yeah. My World with Jeff and Conrad. What is Conrad's? What is his last name? I forgot. I've been hit on the head too many times.
Thompson.
You forgot for a second.
Conrad Thompson. Yeah.
Conrad
I was
Thompson.
thinking, hey, Conrad. I was just thinking of his Twitter, but yeah, Conrad Thompson.
So, and usually when I do these shows, I will take the YouTube version of the show, and I'll watch it back just to restore my memory, more or less. Which on a lot of these shows, just got to restore it almost 90-something%. Because after 10 or 12 or 50, how much time has gone by, my memory I just quit thinking about it unless something unusual happened on the show. So, and we're covering, this is, against all odds, 2007. Now, we've covered 2005 and 2006, right?
Yep.
Now we're doing it 2007. Okay. So, and I sent you today, earlier this afternoon, I sent you just some notes. So when I get to talking here, kind of refresh my memory on what I said. So this was a show, but let me get back to the Jeff's podcast. You ever listen to it, John?
Absolutely. Almost every episode. I love Jeff. Great show.
And I don't listen to podcasts. I don't. But this one was pretty good. Because Jeff, when he gets to talking, he can, I once said about Jeff, he could sell a dying man a health club membership. Because when he gets to talking, you kind of get to liking him, and Conrad's not bad in that department either. But and when they take this pay-per-view, they pick it apart, and I don't really pick it that much because I would be almost like the skeleton picker. That would be left because in watching this stuff back, there were so many mistakes made that if you pointed them all out, it's like a football coach. If the team, I brought this up before, if the football team doesn't play well, you just didn't play well. You just got beat.
Yep.
And basically that's, if you want to break it down to a football game, that's basically what happened. Because we entered into these pay-per-views sometimes not even fully recovered from the last pay-per-view. And you ask me, why does that happen? Because I think we were TNA at that time was trying to serve too many masters. And if I tell you the masters, you'll understand. You got to kind of, serve the majority stockholder, or those people, which were the Carters.
Right.
You had to serve them, and you had to serve Dixie because she was looking at that stuff 24 hours a day, and sometimes she would pick out stuff that wasn't that important, but in her mind it became important, so you would have to stop sometimes and and I never really talked to her that much one-on-one. It was usually Jeff's responsibility, or Vince's responsibility, to kind of explain it to her. And that was one master that we're serving. The other master we were serving was Spike TV. So you had to get the numbers up and keep the numbers up in a demographic that wasn't expanding really. WWE, they were on this is 2007, right?
Yes.
2007, I think WWE was having a little trouble, and they were losing viewers. We were not losing viewers so much, but we were adding, but not that much at a time, which is really solid growth. And then we would have to, and this is another big issue, is the talent. We had to, sabida, what they call sabida. You had to sabida the talent because they didn't like this. And they're welcome to do that. But some of them didn't like anything. And it's not like we needed all of them, because at one point, we were almost like AEW is now.
Too much
we
talent.
had too much talent that we couldn't even service. So if you bring a name over, and all of a sudden, like in AEW, it's a big deal when it's signed, but then you don't see the guy for 2 or 3 weeks, or a month, or maybe longer than that. It was the same thing in TNA. We had too many talents to deal with, basically. But now in the old days, the old territory days, we would carry 16 guys, maybe 18 guys. And that's what you had. But it was easier to work with because you knew what you had. And you knew if this guy was over, or this guy was over, or what this guy can do, and that guy can do. That was your team. You had your tight ends, you had your running backs, you had your quarterback, which would be your star. But you had all those, but you don't have any substitutes. And when you did need a substitute, that meant that the guy who was there before left. He went somewhere else, then you replace him. You bring somebody else in. But we had at one time, I think, like 50 guys. And you can't put all 50 guys on every pay-per-view. And if they didn't make a pay-per-view, it wasn't a guaranteed contract because they didn't get paid for it. So it's hard to get guys, and they say, okay, what's my deal? When you say, well, if you work, you get paid. If you don't get paid. Well, they didn't like it. I don't blame them. Because if I'm going to dedicate myself to a new wrestling company, I want to know exactly how much money I'm making, what the company's going to pay for, what I'm going to pay for. And I think, and sometimes I think Dixie, she got a little cheap on the hotel rooms at one time. So they told the guys they had to get their own hotel rooms. And that got over like a damn, I don't know, like a prostitute in church. That didn't get over too good.
Yeah, I can see that.
But we had all these problems, and somehow they were all being blown out of proportion. And Jeff brought up a good point today when I was listening to him. He says that, and I've called this, he just calls it by a different name. I called it the gang that couldn't shoot straight. See, the right hand never knew what the left hand was doing. That's what it was. We didn't know what social media was doing. We didn't know who was talking to one of the dirt sheets, or even to Meltzer, or even to Alvarez. What's the other guy's name?
Wade Keller?
Yeah, we didn't know, because in WWE, if you want to talk to one of those guys, it has to be cleared by the chain of command. Well, the guys didn't do it. I mean, when I was there, if they wanted to do an interview, they just went ahead and did it. But what floors me is the level of idiocy some of them had. I mean, if you're working for somebody, you can't go on a public service like a podcast or a radio cast and just blatantly blast your employer. You can't do that. I mean, you can, but that leaves hard feelings. And I think several guys did that. And then I think Dixie was forced to repeal. Well, she didn't repeal anything because we didn't have anything set in place anyway. It said if he's going to do an interview, you have to get it cleared. And they didn't like that. But WWE, they don't allow just anybody to do interviews with anybody. If you want to do an interview with a WWE talent, it has to be cleared, right?
Usually, yeah.
I mean, you've got to get the go-ahead, right?
Yep.
I mean, you just can't say, hey, I want to do an interview with him. We'll do it Wednesday at 3 o'clock or whatever. So do you call the talent or do you call the office or the company?
It depends on the guy, but sometimes you do have to call the company.
Yeah, okay. Well,
because sometimes they just get it cleared on their end, but
yeah, okay, yeah. Sometimes they can do it on their end. But let me grant you one thing: anytime a WWE talent does an interview with a third-party vendor or a podcast guy or anybody that is not under direct influence of WWE, they listen to that interview. Yeah. Somebody listens to it. Anytime WWE is covered anywhere, somebody within that office listens to the interview. Now, I don't know who it used to be. It used to be Howard Finkel.
Yep.
Was that his name? He listened to all that stuff and reported directly back to Vince. Now, who does it now? I don't know. They've only got like 200 people running around. But they don't have as many now as they had since this new guy took over. And that's what we were dealing with. And then sometimes when you go to the creative meetings, and I'm going to let you in on something else too. The creative meeting, I hate committees. I've told you that before.
Yep.
This committee wasn't too bad, but it was only 3 people on it most of the time. And it still didn't work. Not to my benefit anyway. I mean, Dusty booked Charlotte, Mid-Atlantic, and he was the sole booker. The sole booker. You know who his helper was?
JJ
Dillon. JJ Dillon. And JJ's told this story. Dusty going in one day, he said, hell, I got the main events book because he was in them. He would just book his match and get it to where he wanted it to be. Oh, I've done my job. And he'd throw it, he'd go in there and say, hey, book the rest of this. Just fill it out. And of course, it wasn't that hard because, he had the secondary angle and the third angle. And, they'd have about 4 angles going at any given time. And you'd have an A town, you'd have a B town. Of course, the A town would get the best stuff, and the B town would get what was left over. Sometimes they'd have a C town, but not very much. And that's how it was done. But, I mean, to go in there to a creative meeting, and old time booker told me this one time. You're supposed to go to a creative meeting to talk creativity. And he told me, and I've always remembered this. He says, the worst idea is the one that's never pitched.
Right.
If you don't pitch it, who knows it's there? And I've had bookers tell me, and I've told guys this, I said, I don't give a crap what your angle is. Just tell me what it is and let me draw my opinion on it. And I've even told guys on creative teams, like I would tell Jeff and Vince, not that I'm telling them, I'm just talking to them, and I say, hey, just throw something out there. It don't even have to be finished. It's just got to be the step one. Just throw a step out, and like I throw my name out and your name out. So they say we've decided that we want John, as the no good, dirty bastard he is, to attack that America-loving patriot, Dirty Dutch, and we'll take it from there. So all of a sudden, boom, you come up with, now you got different ingredients. So you just start throwing your stuff in. And usually you get 3 weeks out of it, 4 weeks out of it, maybe more, according to how it got open, because back in the old days, you could adjust as you went. according to how strong it was. A lot of this stuff would end up very strong because the atmosphere of wrestling 20 years ago, 25 years ago, drastically different than today, correct?
Yeah, oh, big time. Yeah.
Drastically.
Yeah.
Because you used to go to some of these, I mean, and I've told guys how, the heels actually used to get heat. And they look at me like, yeah, okay, whatever, boomer. So, when you walk out on the floor and you feel the intensity, you feel it as soon as you hit it if you got heat. I mean, they're just coming at you. So you imagine being, of course, I was never the main event at Madison Square Garden, but you can feel that intensity there. Even when I was with Swagger, he was there several times, and those people are right on top of me. But I felt the intensity in places like Puerto Rico, which you don't want to feel it like I felt it, because it was dangerous. And I felt it in Memphis. As soon as you hit the floor, well, sometimes without music, here they come, and you can just feel it. Sometimes it just, and once that you get that feeling, you never forget it. Actually, if you could take that feeling and put it in a pill and sell it, you'd be a billionaire in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Really.
Yep.
It's a hard feeling to describe. But when you work for it and you kind of know what you're doing, it's like some of these basketball teams that take the floor, the roof comes off because you're inside. So, and that's what it felt like. Puerto Rico, same deal. It was intense. The loudest crowd I ever heard. Somebody asked me, what is the loudest you ever heard the people? And I've heard them loud in a lot of places, but the loudest I ever heard was in San Juan at the Roberto Clemente Coliseum. It had about 19,000 in there. I think that's what it holds. Big, massive building. Sold out. When they introduced us, it was loud. But when they introduced Carlos, the roof, literally, I thought, it got so loud in my ears, it just, and it like cut off. And what I'm saying by cut off, I think I think you got something in the ear when it gets too loud, it kind of just deflates itself, so you can't hear any louder. I don't know if that's true or not. But, I mean, and the wrestling business is a hard business to understand. And it's not like a football team. I don't want to sit here and talk about, how it works, but, and I've talked about the season, that wrestling never has a season. It's not like football when you have the off season, or basketball you have the off season, then you can get ready and revive your body. Wrestlers used to go 7 days a week. At one point, I wrestled 64 straight days without a day off when I was in WCW. I didn't go home for 64 straight days.
Pretty crazy.
Crazy, huh?
Yep.
Because I was doing commentary on the Monday night show, whatever show I did, I don't even know. But and then the rest of the time I was wrestling every night. So I would fly back every week on Sunday night or Monday morning to Atlanta, go to wherever the TV was, go and straight from the airport. You go up there and get there about 2:00, maybe 3 or whatever, and then you go to work. Then you go back to Atlanta to the airport, get an airport hotel, and you fly out the next morning. And you just stay out on the road, which is not a really good mental condition to be in, because you get tired and you get irritable. And I don't know how they did it without more fights, because you get those guys and they're in that gyms every day and they're all on steroids, so I don't know how. They had a few fights, but I stayed away from them. So anyway, let's get back to this pay-per-view. What is the? Do you have a question about this? Read the first match. What was the first match?
So we started off against all odds, 2007, February 11th, 2007, Orlando, Florida. The Impact Zone, 900 people crammed in there, 25K on the buy rate. The first match was the pre-show match, Serotonin, Frankie Kazarian and Havoc, with Maverick Matt defeat Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt in 5 minutes. And the first match of the actual pay-per-view itself was the Latin American exchange of Homicide and Hernandez defeating Team 3D, Brother Ray and Brother Devon in 10 minutes in a Little Italy street fight.
The first match you mentioned was a pretty good match.
The dark
match.
match.
It was only 5 minutes. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The Little Italy street match and how it got to the street match, but I didn't suggest it.
Who suggested
it? Came in from somewhere. Probably Vince.
Vince Russo, okay.
Well, we're all kind of booking.
Right.
All of us, but I didn't have final say. I think Jeff had final say. But I think if you don't give them quality, just bedazzle them with bullshit, I guess. And I think that's what they were trying to do. And it was basically, no rules. Do anything you wanted. They had tables set up, and I don't know even what led into this angle. It was, I don't know. I can't say. But all I remember, it was a cluster F, and which was a bad way to start your pay-per-view. I think you need to start it with a good solid match, looking back now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A good solid match, and then lead into it. And the second match didn't get much better, did it?
Well, it was better. Well, I don't know. The match itself was pretty good, minus the Little Italy street fight thing. It was just a weird way to, I don't know, that kind of killed it. But the match itself wasn't that bad. The next match, Senshi defeats Austin Starr in about 8 minutes. That was pretty good, too.
Oh, yeah,
not
that
bad.
was good.
Yeah,
not bad
at all.
Because they wrestled. They could do that. I'll tell you, a mistake a lot of us made on these pay-per-views were the finishes, because we had 3 to 4 weeks to TV to get the heat back on a heel. So basically what we should have done on these pay-per-views, more or less, it just made the people happy most of the time and went home. That's what I did in Puerto Rico. And I had more straight-up finishes. In 3 years down there, I bet I had 6 DQs.
Wow.
Maybe a little more. But, in 3 years, I'd go to a show and I'd beat every heel on the card. We were selling out, and some heels come to me and says, "We don't think we got any heat." I said, "Well, we're selling out. What do you want to change?" I said, "I can put heat on you a little bit. You think heat. Watch the houses drop." And he said, "Why is that?" I said, "I don't know. Don't ask me, because I can't tell you." But I said, "You get your heat on TV. When you go to these little spot shows out in the country, that's why you see all the baby faces going over. You know why that started, John?
Why? No, I have no
So
idea.
you don't want it. You don't want heat out in damn Tuckerville, Virginia, because those people don't get wrestling that much. You can't go in there and work a hot finish, because the people are not used to that, and then you may get attacked. So who wants to go to a little town, little spot show? And I just use Tuckerville, Virginia, if there is such a place. Who wants to go there and be fighting fans? It's in their hometown. You can't leave the town. They know where you're going. You only got one road in, one road out. So make them happy. Go take a shower and leave. So some guys, I think we should work this. I said, shut up. Let's go do the finish and let's go home, okay? Okay.
Right. Yep.
But you where was the what?
Where was Jimmy Cornette at this point, though? Was he booking with you guys? Was he gone?
I,
Where's
I,
Cornette right now?
no, no, he never joined Creative. One reason he didn't join Creative because he would have to sit across the table from Russo.
Right.
And we weren't that stupid to try to book them in the same room. Trying to get them underneath the same roof for 8 hours was tough enough on TV day. But you couldn't get them in the same room because they just literally, I mean, Jimmy hates Vince. I told him, I said, you know, and I love Jimmy. And I was actually the one who kind of paved his way to come in because I forgot what happened. I think Vince did leave, and I think Jimmy came in to fill in his role.
Right.
See what I mean? So when Dusty left, I think I called him to come back in under, you know, I asked Jeff, I said, hey, can we use Cornette? He said, call him. That's what he said. So I called him. And he said, yeah, he could do it. So he started coming in. And did I tell you that the time I went up to him and Russo came back in about 3 months later, or maybe 2 months. And we was walking around at Studio 21. And, you know, they just have big studios, not, you know, just driving lanes around in places for people to park. They look like warehouses, really. So I caught him out in between the buildings one day, and I said, Jimmy, did I tell you this?
No. Mm-mm.
I think I did. No,
You did?
anyway,
Maybe.
I told him, I said, Jimmy, I got to tell you something. He went, what is it? I guess my expression gave me away. And I said, you know, I just wanted to tell you, and I don't want you to be blindsided, but Vince is going to be here the next TV, which is in 2 weeks. And he just looked at me and said, okay, I quit. I'll finish up today and I'll go home. I said, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it. He said, no. He said, I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want to have to hit him in the head or something. They kill him. But he said, I think it'd be better if we don't cross paths. And I had Jeff talk to him. And we finally agreed that we would keep them separated. Don't let them go like one-on-one with each other. So, and we did that for, I don't know, several months. Then one day I had some relief. I saw them talking together like out in between the deals. Nobody else around, just those two. And I went, wow, that situation has improved a lot. So, and it did get better because it couldn't have got much worse. But
now it's worse.
But Jimmy was never asked. Well, yeah, but Jimmy has quite a temper. I remember pulling him to Smoky Mountain one time. I had to pull him off a guy. You know, the guy that pulls the cables for the camera people.
Right.
He had him up. You shut up, and had him up against the wall. I said, Jimmy, calm down. You. He said, that's not the best. I said, Jimmy, because Jimmy didn't know him. The TV people brought him. His recording crew brought him. But he gets very, very agitated, very quick. And it's a wonder Jimmy hadn't lost like $1 million in lawsuits. You know, he used to, when you take that that tennis racket around, he'd whack the hell out of people with it. I don't know why he didn't get more lawsuits. But anyway, but we never asked Jimmy, speaking of Jimmy, we never asked Jimmy to come on creative because we had better sense. Anybody could see that.
Right.
So, and sometimes Jeff would call him and ask him for advice on a phone call. He would do that. And another one that I don't know if he was on creative at one time and then he left or something happened. was Mike Tenay. Mike Tenay was on it, which, see, I didn't have a problem with people being on it, but I think Mike Tenay's his involvement, because I respected his opinion, because he would sit back and he'd listen, and then at the end of the discussion, whatever, then he would give you his side and what he thought was better. But he wouldn't be throwing it while you were discussing it. He wouldn't be throwing ideas back and forth, and what about this, and what about that. He'd listen, and he would pick out what he thought was the best, and most of the time he was about 90% right. But I think somehow we lost his services somehow. I don't know. So what were we talking about? The next match was what?
So after Senshi defeated Austin Starr, Bob Backlund comes out, puts the chicken wing on Austin Starr, and drags him to the back. Where did this, who brought in Bob Backlund? Why was he part of this whole deal here?
I never understood Backlund. They just said he's coming in. I didn't book him. See, this is what I'm saying. Remember when I said the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing sometimes?
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. I think he became available somehow. And who was Backlund's agent? Didn't he have
I don't know.
I just had the guy's name in my head.
Your buddy Eric Sims?
I'll think of his name.
Eric Sims?
Who?
Eric Sims?
No, wasn't him. But it was somebody, but he was in California. I can't remember his name.
Barry Bloom?
But I think he was representing. It was Barry Bloom. Wasn't he Backlund's agent at one time?
I don't know. I have no idea. I know he did agent a lot of the wrestlers.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And I think he had the direct line to Dixie. So when he picked the phone up and talked to Dixie, well, it's almost like they're in. So Dixie liked him, and she liked to be dealing with a Hollywood producer or an agent. She liked that. So he came in. And anyway, I don't know why that was, but after he got there, now you see what creative is stuck with. Now we have to figure out what's he doing there. What are we going to do with it? Too old to wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we had to do something on the third party outside the ring, and that's what we came up with. I don't know if it would have worked if he demanded somebody or if he would have even been happy doing that. See, when you book some of these guys, you put them in certain situations, they don't like it. Well, they'll do it, but they won't put their heart in it. And it's almost like you'd be better off not doing it. So that's another thing we were fighting too. Give me that man-woman match that we had on there.
Oh God, the tuxedo match. Christy Hemme defeats the big fat oily guy. 2 minutes 30 seconds. What is going on? Who the hell booked this crap?
That was I don't know. I was there when it was booked, and I don't even know the reason. Christy Hemme was an announcer at first. Then she transferred over to talent, and she wanted to wrestle. And I think we were trying to break her in, and just get her out there. And it was a horrible match.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Not a very good match. Yeah. I don't want to call it a horrible match. It wasn't that good.
Who is this guy?
Horrible would have been.
Who is he? He's just some fan?
He's just a fan. He's a fan from somewhere, from Alabama, I think, North Alabama. And he was there around the first, and I don't know who knew him, and I don't even know his connection. And we used him on you remember that 3-man panel we had?
Yeah.
The year before, he was in that. And I don't know how he got to be the big fat oily guy. I have no idea. Because now it's been 15 years or more. No, how long? It's 15 years, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, so what happened at the end of this? Didn't we have another girl come in? What was the finish in this?
Well, Hemi basically beats him up and removes his pants, and the big fat oily guy was wearing a G-string. That was like the big
You
finish
know,
here.
and did a girl wrestler run in?
I don't remember. I actually tried to skip over this one. I didn't want to watch because I remember I watched it 15 years ago, and it was like, this is embarrassing. So when I tried to rewatch, I just skipped over it, which maybe I shouldn't have, but it was so
See,
bad.
this is, in looking back at this, I'm saying this was a company with X division roots.
Right.
With that X division, you can only have so much X division matches because it's all work. It's no story. We was trying to get a story to break somewhere. But to make it 3 hours, that's a long, long way. We were only required, excuse me, we was only required by pay-per-view rights to go 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Right.
And I begged them, I said, let's cut it down 15 minutes, guys. It'll probably help us. We can cut one match out. Now, if they'd have been all great matches, you wouldn't want to do that. But they weren't. And we had the talent to do that. So, but this match wasn't good. And I think we, you don't have the finish in there. I think what went in there, somehow Christy Hemme got.
Well, she was a
I
tuxedo match, so
forgot.
she had to take off of his clothes. And when she took off his clothes, I know he was wearing a G-string. I know that was like the comedy spot of it all, like this disgusting guy is wearing a G-string.
And then I think somebody ran in there, something else. Don't ask me, but wasn't very good. By this time, the fans were shouting, "F you, Russo."
And fire Russo.
It was fire Russo. And that's not the first time I heard it out there.
Right.
So, but see, I was like the hidden member of creative. A lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah.
They would mention it on the sheets, but I would, and what I'm saying is I would go in there and I would fight to maybe not, you couldn't lessen it unless you just changed the whole match. But I always fought to tone it down. Don't make it so preposterous and hard to believe. You know, wrestling fans, you got to give them credit. They will buy a lot of stuff, but don't insult them.
Right.
Yeah. Don't insult them because then you lose them. And because to me, and I learned this in Puerto Rico, and I taught it myself because I had an old-time booker tell me one time, he says, don't F the people. Don't F them. He said, if you have a decision to make of whether to put the his heel over or his baby face over, you go with the baby face because now they got to finish. Now, after this finish, you can do anything to get the heat back on the heel. But give them something that they remember, that they're happy with, and what you want them to do. This guy told me, he said, you want them going out the door every week, because that's when we used to run these towns weekly. Like Memphis would run 52 weeks a year. Birmingham, Alabama, 52 weeks. Atlanta, Georgia, 52 weeks a year. But you wanted them to go out the door saying, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that. But if you don't want them going out the door and say, boy, this is a bunch of crap. I ain't never coming back to this crap again. Now you may get them back. They're still fans. But now you're going to have to, they may miss a month or two, and then they're usually, most of them, they come back bitching, but they're not. I never call them marks because they're not marks. They're customers, and you got to make them happy, and you got to make it interesting. Don't ever be boring and don't ever be predictable, because you're going to lose your crowd. See, that's why spot shows used to draw so well, because you weren't there all the time. Like if you come in on a Thursday night and you promoted it fairly well, you ought to draw at least 600, 700, 800 people. Because now the carnival is in town for one night. And let's go and let's all get together and let's have a good time, have a few beers before we go over and holler and yell. And then 2 hours and 15 minutes later, we can leave and go home and talk about it tomorrow. That's what you want. But anyway, back to this enrapturing card. What was the next match?
Lance Hoyt with David Eckstein defeats Dale Torborg with AJ Przynski in Baseball Brawl. The match went 5 minutes.
Baseball.
Back to back here. Baseball.
Well, Torborg. I remember the name Torborg. I remember meeting him. I don't know where this came from, but I think somebody like Barry Bloom or somebody like that got in touch with Dixie or Jeff.
And I think Ross Foreman was buddies with David Eckstein, I think. Wasn't he buddies with David Eckstein and Przynski?
Well, he probably. And maybe that's where it came from. And he pitched the idea because now, Przynski, they had which won the World Series, right?
Yes, the White Sox.
Or was that the other guy?
No, the White Sox, and he was the catcher.
And Damon played with who?
He played with Yankees, Red Sox. Well, and the Royals, but at that point, I think he just came and he was just a part of the Yankees, I believe.
Well, somehow and what was the match there? Przynski was on the outside, and
Eckstein was on the outside.
Who was the match with?
Archer or Lance Hoyt and Torborg, who was also the strength and conditioning coach for the White Sox.
Okay. Unless you're a baseball fan,
Kiss Demon.
I remember it. But unless you're a baseball fan, you don't really. I mean, baseball fans know who these guys are, and it was intended to get publicity and coverage in the baseball world, which it probably did. I don't know, but didn't make the match any better. And I think Lance Hoyt, and a story about him, he actually went on some radio show or some print medium. I don't know. And he just blasted the company. And he told the truth, that's what I'm saying. But yet in telling the truth, he bared himself. He said the company didn't know what the hell they were doing. And I think he was way out of his league by saying that, because he was really, really great. But he has a right to say it, but you also have a right to be, you can be let go for saying those things about your employer. So I don't think that worked well for anybody, and I think he was gone not too long after that. I may be wrong. But when that happened, I just heard about that, I don't know, a couple of days ago.
Wow.
I don't even remember when it was going on. He went on one of his rants about TNA. But did you ever read them or hear about them?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Well, I tried to stay away from it as much as I could, but I heard about it then. But that was out of my department, so I let them handle it. So there's nothing I could do to fix it anyway. So I just didn't. I wish you wouldn't have felt that way. because you get out of something in direct proportion what you put into it. So if you're gonna degrade it, and you're working for the company, you're actually degrading yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you can't, and hey, the company needed to grow. It didn't need any more downgrading or downsizing. Because hell, we was pretty good at that ourselves. We didn't need any help. And so we got through that match. What was next?
Next up is the Motor City Chain Match. AJ Styles defeats Rhino in 15 minutes. But here's the thing: there's a strap match. They called it the Motor City Chain Match. So AJ and Rhino have to deal with a chain, 2 poles on 2 different corners, and one had a key in it, one had a nightstick on it. I don't know. It's just like too many gimmicks. So you got the chain, what you're saying.
No kidding.
Is really in essence a strap match, and you got the 2 poles, and then you got the key, and then you got the nightstick. I mean, whew, especially for these 2 guys who could probably kill it out there. Horrible, overbooked.
What these pay-per-views during this period were they were just step matches. They would just you'd stipulate it. They would have stipulations. This is different.
Yep.
And that's what the whole card became. So if you're a wrestling fan, and I've always been a big believer in that, you got to attract all type of people. You got to. Of course, it's a male audience by and large, but we were drawing a few women. Now, when I first broke into business, the crowd was about half female. That stopped with the ECW days. You know why it stopped?
I don't think the women wanted to see that. They probably didn't want to see that stuff. It just got too male dominated.
They didn't want to see the blood. They didn't want to see the violence. They didn't see the entertainment value of that, and I agree with them. See, they didn't really have anything for. When you watch an old ECW show, it's all guys.
Oh yeah.
It was about the same size as the Impact Zone, wherever they filmed their matches up in, where was it, Newark? Where did they film at?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
That's right, Philadelphia. But,
the old bingo hall, if you will. Yes.
Yeah, it was a nice building. I mean, good place to have that. But it was all guys.
Good spot, a good place. Shitty building, but good place. Yeah, the building itself.
Yeah, it was there.
Yeah.
When I was there, they cleaned it up.
Oh yes, when TNA.
It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
Now I don't ever remember TNA running there. Did they run there?
Oh yeah, they had a bunch of shows there.
I was in there for like a fan convention.
Oh right.
So it was okay then.
Oh yeah,
I enjoyed that.
And even since you've been there,
but what happened?
They put a big bar in there. It's nice in there.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, good. But we were an X Division company going and just doing almost Ring of Honor, not Ring of Honor, ECW stuff. With I don't know, it didn't fit, and this whole card became just a gimmick card. It was like, instead of having matches, we'll just stiff the hell out of it and go from there. See, the stories even got lost in the stip. Now, why would AJ and Rhino have this match? Because I hadn't studied what led up to it. So you remember it?
They were feuding for the last few months, because I remember we covered it on the last few shows when we were talking about Against All Odds and Final Resolution. They had been feuding for a while. I don't remember like the genesis of the feud though.
And what was the finish on this match? Didn't AJ get the
Styles picks up the victory after Rhino attempts to gore him through the table, but Styles moved out of the way and Rhino goes through the table.
But didn't Rhino get chained up? I forgot what happened in it.
After he went through the
I think
table.
Rhino got chained up. and I think the referee kicked the key over to Rhino or something. And then he got the key and he got out, and then he looked like he was going through the table, and then he moved and he went through the table on his own, and he beat him, which was almost, I don't know.
Well, AJ, he thought he was going to get AJ through the table. AJ moved out of the way, and then he basically killed himself with the gore. Yeah. Yep.
It went 15 minutes.
Yep. Very, very overbooked, especially AJ Styles match. Oof. He's usually a home run. You know what I mean? He's usually an automatic for a good match.
Well, I think most of the matches that you see with AJ, he does most of his stuff except the finish. And the finish, I don't know where that came from. I bet people said, "Well, damn Dutch, you worked there. You don't remember nothing?" Well, not really. No.
Yeah.
I just, because I was listening to Jeff today, and Jeff said, "Yep, totally not good, totally not good." But hey, we had a shitty team. We had shitty coaches. And the last match was last match? It was Christian and Kurt.
Well, you got before that though. We have a few matches. Chris Sabin defending his TNA X Division title. He defeats Jerry Lynn in 13 minutes. Pretty good match there.
That was good.
Then
that was good. But that should have been brought. Actually, that should have been brought down and opened with it.
Ah, yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You put one of your best matches on early.
Right.
Because by the time they got out there, people said, "Screw this." And they probably either went to sleep in front of the TV, or they or they just turned it off. Or they were calling cable company for the refund, I guess. I don't know. And that was another battle we were fighting all the time, was with the cable company. You know, if you do a pay-per-view, say, this Saturday, you know when you get your money from that? 90 days.
Ooh, not good. Yeah.
Well, and the reason is, if you think about it, it's 30 days you got to pay your bill. Now the money comes in. Now the cable company, they got to get their part out of it. That takes another 30 days, figure that out. And then 30 days after that, the company gets their money. And then maybe 2 weeks after that, the talent get paid. So you're 3.5 months behind on a show you did 3 months ago, or 3.5 months ago. A lot of people don't understand that. It makes sense if you think about it, but by the time you get paid, hell, you forget what the house was. I think they planned that way. Okay, but that match that Lynn and Sabin should have went to. That should have went first. And they had a decent build up to that, except that Sabin kept going around, and I brought this up, calling Jerry old. I said, guys, you can't win with that. Because if he beats him, I mean, if Jerry beats Sabin, he got beat by an old man. And if he beats Jerry, well, big deal. You beat an old man.
Right.
You can't win with that.
Yep, not good.
No, it's not. I said, I don't think we should be calling him. Oh, yeah, well, but anyway, it went up. I didn't agree with that. See, I can disagree with some of the storylines, but I didn't. Some of these storylines where I just got lost in the transition, I guess. What was the next match?
James Storm.
How many matches did we have?
10 in total, counting the pre-show. So the next match, James Storm and Jackie Moore defeated Petey Williams and Gail Kim in 9 minutes. Mixed tag action here. You're starting to see some women here.
Now we're starting to see. I kind of encouraged this as I was going along, because we had to start bringing them in a little bit at a time. But when they got there, and I think You know, I'm talking about the pay-per-view buy rate for this. I listened to Jeff's show today was 7,000. I don't believe that. But sometimes they would throw those numbers at us because if it's only 7,000, you say, well, why are we even doing this?
Right.
I mean, why would the pay-per-view even do it if it's only 7,000? So you know how big that cable company is. Every little community or city has its own cable company, I guess.
Yeah.
And if they get 10 buys for $40, that's only $400 that they take 200 of and they give the company 200. It's usually a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And WWE gets more because they don't even worry about that now. Now they got their network. They don't even worry about that anymore. But
Yep.
we never heard, and I've said this before, I never heard a buy rate. Remember I asked you last week or the week before, where did you get that number?
Right.
And you said, well it says
Surfing
it
the
right
net.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Surfing the net.
So, but I think this match wasn't bad because Gail Kim and what was it, Jackie? I called her Jackie.
Yep.
They could go. So at least we put some girls on this show a little bit, other than Christy Hemme, which I think broke it up. And this was actually, as I recall, it wasn't a cluster F, but I think it was a pretty decent match because we had some afterbirth in it. Somebody pulled somebody's top off. I think Christy Hemme showed back up in it with Jackie or something. You remember that?
Yeah, and then Chris Harris actually ends up coming down and like making the save, kind of teasing.
Yeah, he made the save.
Yep.
And we had been leading up to that point, was saying that America's Most Wanted were broken up forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, and he did a pretty good job with it. He did interviews that led people to believe that he was hanging it up. And, he'd wrestled his last match with James, but he showed up and said, so we got them restarting. And I don't even know why he was out. I think he maybe got hurt. I can't even remember why we separated them or why they separated. But I think he was hurt, and he was out a couple months.
And he went to WWE at one point.
Well, I don't think, was that when he went?
A little bit after that. So I know he had an injury, but it was almost like, I don't know if he was wanting to stay around. You know what I mean?
But I had heard stories. I knew he went there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He went there expecting to be a big star right off the bat, and that didn't work out. So his field of dreams was busted right off the bat.
I know he was injured. He came back in 2007, then he went to WWE basically in 2008.
Hey, who was the girl that TNA had one time? A blonde-headed girl that was the announcer. What was her name? Started
Lauren?
with a B, I think. Not
Lauren?
No, before her. And she worked a little bit when we were still doing pay-per-views in Nashville.
Goldilocks?
I'll think of her. Goldilocks.
Yes, there you go.
I think Chris, James Storm and Chris Harris, I think Chris ended up with Goldilocks. Now, I don't think they're together now, but that's what I heard.
Interesting. Nice.
So, you know either one of them?
I know Goldilocks a little bit. Yeah, she's great.
I would like to just been a fly on the wall, just listening to those two. There's something about them that's kind of intriguing, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, but anyway, that's gone. But the girls were starting to make movement at this point. And I think during this time, we were doing a rating on Spike. of like a 1-2. And if you are around the 1, I don't know, but it would mean like 1.4 million people were watching, which I didn't think was bad on a Thursday night on a off channel. So, but it was never to Dixie. It's never good enough. I mean, she would like look at us like she was disappointed. And now thinking back, she was fighting her own battles too. She was having her difficulty with creative. We couldn't do nothing about it. We was trying, and we got to do something different. And of course, we're guessing at it, that this is going to work, that's going to work. And then we had WWE talent in there, like Christian, like Kurt. And so, and I think actually this card, as crappy as it is, and looks and was, actually it didn't do a bad buy rate, I heard. That's what I heard. Is it true? I don't know. That's what a little blind ringer told me. He said,
nice.
Hey, it didn't do a bad buy rate. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got it now. So I should be like Joe Biden. Now look, hey, listen, here's the deal.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's the deal.
Like...
But and the last match was, and we made it, and I don't know where this came from. Whoever did this, I didn't know about it until today, when I listened to Jeff and Conrad's show, that he had said at one point, if he doesn't win, he's going to quit.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know that? Is that what happened?
I believe so.
I don't know when he said this, but you know, I wasn't on every interview, but he didn't win. So now, and you remember what I talked about a while ago? These customers, or a lot of guys call them marks, these customers cannot be disappointed in that way. Because, and I don't know why he even agreed to say it if he wasn't going over.
Right.
Because to me, that's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
Now they're not mad at the promotion. The people are just not, they're not mad. They wouldn't be mad at Kurt because they liked him, but they're just disappointed in him. So the next time he says something like that, they go, okay, whatever. Now, this is another story I'm going to tell. I had him do this when we introduced the knockouts. Remember that first show that we had the knockout tournament on the pay-per-view?
Yep.
The main event was Kurt and I forgot who he was with now. Anyway, Kurt said that if he didn't win, he'd quit. Now, I was unaware that they had done it the year earlier. But Dixie, and she called me in her office one day and she said, Dutch, can I talk to you a minute? I said, yeah, sure. I went and sat down. She closed the door. I went, oh, God, now I'm getting fired. You know, when they get all secretive and all, something's going on. But she didn't say that. She says, is it true that Kurt said if he didn't win that he would quit the business? I said, yes. Well, who told him to say that? I said, I did. Why? I said, well, he's going to win, right? And she said, yes, but that's not the point. And I don't know where this came from, but probably the year earlier, like this, probably prompted that response from her then. But then she came up and she says, well, why would we give away the finish? And I told her, I said, well, Dixie, I know that she didn't get those words from herself. Somebody had to be talking in her ear.
Yeah. Definitely.
Who, I don't know. I got my idea. And I told her, I said, Dixie, sometimes in a case like this, you want to give away the finish. Because even if the people remembered from last year, and the people forget, but he said he was going to win, and he went out, and he won. And he didn't have to quit the business. So now, not only did he win the title, now he don't have to quit. So, but at least he said something that he was going to do that he carried through. And I remember that show that I got a buy rate on that because we never got to anywhere close to what it was. But I think it was one of the highest buy rates the company ever had. I think we did like 70,000 buys. Now, you may look at me and say, you got to be out of your effing mind to think TNA ever did 70,000 buys. Again, that's what I heard in the office, bouncing off the walls. I probably heard stuff I shouldn't have heard. But I think it was one of the biggest pay-per-views we ever had. So, but I'm going to check that. And I'm really, tell our person who is in charge of picking our pay-per-view reviews.
Yes.
To find when the knockouts debuted, and let's go over that one. Because that was a pretty good pay-per-view, I remember. Nice building, kind of in close, tight.
Do you know you skipped over?
Loud. They were.
You know you skipped over a match before you went to Christian and Angle. You skipped over a match.
Oh, I did?
Sting defeated Abyss in a prison yard match. It's actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
About 12 minutes.
Yeah, that was good. So, well, I don't know where some of these, as part of Abyss's storyline, and Abyss was my creation. I came up with it when I booked him in Puerto Rico.
Yep.
And, of course, his short profile read that he was abused as a child, spent time in institutions when he was young, hated his father, and then since I laid those prerequisites down, I find out that he shot his father in the head 3 times and killed him. I don't know where that came from, but he went to prison. And this was a prison yard match. and we did have, we sold out the arena. We had sold out. It was full. People were outside. And so what we did, we had big screens outside. So the people waiting to come in, they could see this match. And I think it started outside and came in. But it was a pretty good match. And Abyss was the perfect choice to work with Sting. Because when I took him to Puerto Rico and I booked him in his first territory, I saw there's a lot of potential there. And his work ethic was very, very strong. And he just wanted to be a wrestler. He just wanted to be a wrestler so bad. And I took him down there for 9 months where he worked, I guess he worked 4 or 5 days a week for 9 months. Hell, that's almost like WWE's now. I don't know if those guys work 5 days a week. They work 4, right?
Yeah.
4 days a week.
Only 4 now, yeah.
But that's where he learned to work. And I didn't give him. I gave him some like corrections on what he was doing. I told him, I said, I don't want you doing high spots because you're too big to do that. I said, when they knock you down, it's going to take time for them to knock you down. So when they finally knock you down, That's like a moral victory for them. And I had to keep hammering this in his head, hammer, hammer, hammer. I said, you're a character. I said, don't work for the dressing room. Work for the top row. That's what you're working for.
Right.
And somebody brought that up the other day. They talking about some of these guys, they do work for the dressing room because a lot of this stuff doesn't make a damn bit of sense. Why would you put this in front of a move and that in front of a move? And it doesn't add anything to it. Maybe it looks a little more complex, but it doesn't make a damn bit of sense. But what are we in? We're in wrestling, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have to make sense. But the deal with the prison yard is, and I think I added that when I heard all this other stuff. And I said, well, he went to prison. Why don't we, for lack of something else, I said, let's do a prison yard match. I think I may have added this. But the deal is, you can add anything as long as the talent can execute it. And they did. And Abyss was the best one to work with Sting, because Sting wasn't the Sting of 20 years ago. He could probably get hurt pretty easy. And Abyss took care of him. And they got through it. So, and Sting trusted him. So you got to be careful with a guy like Sting, because he's worked with the best. So if you put him with somebody who's kind of lax or reckless, he won't trust him. And if he thinks he's going to get hurt, he may even refuse to even work with him. I don't blame him. And that's his prerogative. See, at this time, we had two high-paid people. I remember I said that the talent, we were having trouble out of the talent in the hotel rooms and all this stuff. Somehow they found out what, and I don't know how they did this, because I didn't even know till later, but I think two of the highest paid guys in TNA, well, you're going to have to pay for the stars and how much coverage, how big they were, was Sting and Angle.
Oh yeah.
And definitely. I don't know what the talent payroll was, but Sting and Kurt, they yanked a sizable portion out of it. So if you got, and I think I counted the guys on this card, the people on this card, it's something like 40-something guys. So if you take two guys and they're taking 30-40% of the payroll, what's left for the other 38 guys? See what I mean?
Yeah. Yep, not good.
And you know, Cage wasn't working for nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but I think they overpaid big fat oily guy. I think he got on a no-cut contract. But hey, anyway, but when you look at something like this, you know, I can go back and say, God, that was not all of it was bad. The majority of it was kind of,
yeah. Angle versus Christian was pretty good. Sting Abyss was pretty good. Yep. Yeah,
pretty good. But that's what you're trying to get rid of. You want all of them to be good, and all of them to kind of make sense. And what did I say a little earlier? Never insult your audience.
Yep.
Because you're teaching them not to trust you. So if they can't trust the promotion, that's a hard battle. Plus, as I said a little earlier, we were fighting on different fronts, on different things, and different people were fighting these fronts and not letting the other people know the extent of damage or whatever was being done. Of course, Dixie was and Jeff, they were debating with Spike and the cable people with them, and I mean, and we didn't know what was going on. So you can't fix a problem unless you know one exists. So a lot of times, these things that were kind of held from you. Not that I want to know of myself, because I think I work better if I can't correct the problem. I mean, we're trying to book these shows as best we can, but we were still learning too. We were still learning. She was learning. Jeff was learning. And so it is what it is. So, but tell our pay-per-view picker,
Yes.
I want to talk about, and if it could be next week, it'd be fine. If we could see the first time that the knockouts debuted. And I think that was where Kurt went up against, no, it wasn't Kurt, it was Joe and Kurt. Joe was the one who promised he would quit, not Kurt. And great match.
Right. I was going to say, I remember because Joe goes over, but supposedly they did do 70 or 80,000 buys on that pay-per-view.
So you heard that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And one reason, because and I'm not saying it's me, but I sat down one day and I'm pissed off. I'm not pissed off at Vince, and I'm not pissed off at Jeff. I'm just pissed off at the whole process. And Jeff looked at me and he said, "What you pissed about?" I said, "Brother, please." I said, and we were working on that show that I was telling you about, the one in Dover. I think it's Dover, Delaware. I think. You remember Dover, Delaware?
I
remember Joe Biden came over. Yeah, I think Joe Biden came over. I slapped him. Told him to get out of the building.
Oh, my God.
No, he didn't. But I told him, I said, "Guys, why don't we do something different with this card?" And they went like, What? I said, "Why don't we promote the goddamn thing?" It's like, yeah, that would be good. Let's promote it. And I says, "Why don't we take Joe off TV leading up to this?" "Well, why would you take him off TV?" I said, "Because just let him talk the game. But put Kurt on every show. And when he gets through beating a jobber, just the enhancement talent, we have him do an interview and say, 'Joe, you see this right here? That's going to be you. Except you'll make a big greasier spot.'"
Right. Yep.
And tell him, he said, and when he beats him now, you'll be gone, you'll be out of his hair. And we did that, I think, every show leading up to this one. We didn't even see Joe in the ring, but we saw Kurt in the ring three or four times, just beating people up and talking about how he was going to destroy Joe. And then we would play a little video of their past stuff, and the package fit. Now it made sense. Now we doubled that up with the girls, the knockouts, debuting for the first time. And I don't know if we'd even brought out that we're going to, I think it was for the Knockout Championship? I think it was.
Right.
And it was I think it was not a battle royal, but it was like people would go in stages. And Kong didn't win this either. I think Gail won it. I think. And I do remember when that happened, Gail Kim was ecstatic. I mean, because she didn't want to be a valet. She didn't want to just walk to the ring and just be an accessory. She wanted to wrestle herself. And I remember the first time that I mentioned to her that we wanted all girls. Excuse me. She says, "Do you know people?" She said, "I know a couple of hundred." I said, "That could work your level?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Where?" She said, "Well, Japan mostly. I met them." And then that's when she told me about Kong. She said, "I'm going to bring you a tape. I want you to look at this." And she brought me the tape. And the next time he went to TV, I said, "I want that girl." And she said, "When do you want to hear?" I said, "Yesterday." get her down here as fast as we can get her here. Of course, she didn't come till we had that show. But now I think once I got them all on the same stage, and we could actually look, and Dixie could look, and Jeff could look, and Vince could look, we got new play toys. We got a whole new Mantell set of wrestlers that now we can go and work with. And now it's not just a guys match and then another guys match and then a tag team match with guys. Now we can put in a female single match or a female tag team match, because it would split the stuff up. I even asked Spike TV about the concept of this. And I asked him, I said, do you think an all-girls format would work? Remember we talked about it last week?
Yep.
And he says, well, I don't know. I says, okay, what is your age demographic? They said, for wrestling? I said, yeah. For a lot of, shows. He said 18 to 32. I said, male mostly, right? He said, yeah. I said, okay. How hard do you think it would be to attract males 18 to 32 watching half-naked females on TV wrestling? How hard a damn stab in the dark is that? How hard it would be to interest guys like that? He said, you may have something. But I didn't hear any more about it because, I don't know, I think it got the... See, I don't think Dixie wanted the girls there. Now, she got a business. Girls have been known to be profitable in the wrestling profession. Not so much then, but later on. And I remember the first time we brought all the girls in, and I've told you these stories before, I'll tell them again. I set the girls down. I said, girls, this is what we're going to do here. You're no longer, excuse my language, the C word, bitches, the W word, and bitches. I said, you're no longer that anymore. You're athletes. And I want you girls to go out there, and every time you go to that ring, I said, don't make me wrong, and don't make yourselves wrong. I want you to go out there, and I want you to kick those guys' ass. Hell, they was all fired up when they left. And I remember the first time we brought Kong out in Orlando. These are not wrestling fans. Half of them were. Most of them are tourists. So I may have told you this too. I may tell a lot of things twice, but I'll tell it again. I put little blonde-headed, little bouncy, little cheerleader look type in the ring, and she's going around and she's doing it, and she was smiling. Then we heard the music. Boom, boom, boom. And out come Kong. Everybody in that arena stood up. They said, damn, this is different. So, and we went to the ring, and the rest is history. So, and I think the girls worked because we didn't have every match girls as we were having every match guys. But we would sprinkle one in the top half of the show, hour, and then we'd go and we'd shoot toward a girls match in the second half of the show. And I usually try to transition over the top of the hour with girls in the ring. I was following the old WWE, method of never letting them have a match when the clock hits. So we start at 8. When it hits 9, be in a match between 4 minutes till to 4 minutes after. Then if something's going on, they may not switch around and they leave you. But anyway, I think this show wasn't a total loss. I think we learned something, and we're getting there.
Right.
I think, when did the knockout start? You remember?
Not exactly, but this is kind of the beginning because Jackie and Gail are both wrestling on the show.
I
so
think
it's
they started. Yeah, I think they started maybe I don't know. I'd have to look that up when they started. But I remember when they started, it was wintertime. I do remember that. And they started like, this was February, so I'd like to say they started in like March of this year, but I don't think they did. I think they started January in 2008, maybe. But that's when they got hot, really, really hot. And one of the highest not buy rates, but ratings they ever had was a 3.4 with Kong and Gail Kim. So that had to be over 3 million, almost maybe 4 million people, which is like astronomical.
Yeah, especially for TNA. And the first Knockouts champion was crowned October 14th, 2007 at Bound for Glory. Gail Kim won the gauntlet match, last defeating Roxy Laveau.
Okay. So that wasn't at the pay-per-view, right?
No, Bound for Glory, pay-per-view, 2007.
Okay, that's when it was. I remember it's October?
Yes. Yep.
Did you say October? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So it would be cold up north. That's right. So they had a good, almost 2.5 year run that we depended on those knockouts for the rating average. Otherwise, we'd be doing like a 1-2 or 1-3 till we put Kong and Gail Kim out there sometimes, and they would jump it up to 1.8, 1.9. So when you go for a 1.3 to 1.8, that brings your whole average up. And that's what the TV stations and the sponsors look at. So anyway, well, that's about all I got. You got any more questions?
No, you answered everything actually before we really started rolling, but perfect.
Well, ask me something. I'll tell you what I know. Just anything.
What was going on with Shane Douglas at this point? I know you had mentioned he was there. Was
Shane
released.
Shane, this is what I heard. I think somebody in the wrestling fraternity had passed away. I want to say Balls Mahoney, but maybe that wasn't it.
Probably.
But I think he got depressed over one. It was that. It was Bam Bam died, and I think he got depressed. They were good friends.
Yep.
And when you talk about, he was trying to relieve his grief by taking pain pills, I guess. It's not like none of us have ever done that. But, and I think somebody saw him doing a meeting and he's dozing off. So I didn't want Dixie to see him, and I don't think Jeff saw him, but I said, somebody brought up that we need to talk to Shane, because even if I'm wrong or somebody is wrong, it's better to bring it to their attention till it goes too far. And I'm not saying that could happen, but there's a lot of drug-related deaths in the wrestling business that could have been prohibited if somebody just knew they needed help. So what we did, we sent Shane home and told him that, when he straightens out or when he can get working ability again to join us back. So, but I think that was what I think he got really, really depressed. And as we've all done that at some point. I mean, not necessarily, some people turn to drinking, some people turn to, pain medication or a lot of things, or just knockout pills but he was having a problem, and he was very, very good at what he did too. When he was an announcer, he's actually good, a lot better than I thought he'd be. He was very good. So, any more questions?
That was it.
Damn, we went an hour and a half. We went an hour and a half knocking this crap.
Yeah.
Damn you, John.
Hey, not my
Damn
fault.
it to hell. So anyway, well, you kept asking me these questions. I kept talking. So that's my mustache today. Pretty good.
I love it. Dutch approved.
Look how gray it is. God damn it. You know, but look
you
at my
just noticed that
hair
now?
on top.
How gray you are? Damn.
What's that? No,
You just
no, I
noticed
knew
now
it
how
was
gray you
gray.
get? Oh,
No, I knew that. But look at the hair on top.
nice.
That's natural.
Nice.
I don't get it
Me neither.
at all. Crazy. How much hair you got, John? Tilt your head down.
Not much.
Oh,
I'm
God.
losing it. I need to get and just shave it.
That's
Shave it off.
doing. That's doing for neck exercises in bed, right? Bridges.
Yep.
That's what you did.
Yes.
Okay. We'll come back next week, hopefully, with that show we've been talking about this last 20 minutes with the Delaware show. So you got the date on it, right?
October 14th, 2000.
You have the date, John?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll be back next week. If anybody's got a question, now if you want to ask me a question, Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. And I got some more things coming up. I'll let everybody in on it. And I'm on Twitter. I hadn't been on Twitter for a week or two because I had some difficulties. But it's Dirty D Mantell. And still having trouble getting verified. I don't think any more people can get verified. I think some guys are verified don't need to be verified, to tell you the truth. I see people
totally
I've never even heard of. They're verified. What the hell?
I totally agree.
What like on TikTok, that little boy said, "What the hell?" You'll see that. What the hell?
Yeah. Yep.
He's about 2 years old. What the hell? Anyway, so I'll see everybody back next week. Got any questions? Send them at Dirty D Mantell at Gmail, and we'll answer them right here. What you got, John?
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website tmptempire.com.
See you next week. We the people.